Gavin Newsom has been reaching out to the right and also taking some shots at his own party. This is a new example. The Hill says, Gavin Newsom took a swing at his own party Friday evening, claiming Democrats have become too toxic and judgmental. Newsom, in an appearance on Real Time with Bill Maher, was asked about other Democrats' criticism of the party and those who have questioned the governor for bringing GOP guests on his new podcast, This is Gavin Newsom, calling it platforming. Quote, I mean, this idea that we can't even have a conversation with the other side, or the notion we just have to continue to talk to ourselves or win the same damn echo chamber, these guys are crushing us, he continued, referencing Republicans who have seen better numbers in recent elections. Quote, the Democratic brand is toxic right now, the governor said, adding later that we talk down to people, we talk past people. The governor also gave a nod to recent guests on his show, which some have viewed as controversial, including former White House advisor Steve Bannon and Turning Point USA co-founder Charlie Kirk. Quote, and I think with this podcast and having the opportunity to dialogue with people I disagree with, it's an opportunity to try to find common ground and not take cheap shots, he said. I'm not looking to put a spoke in the wheel of their or a crowbar in the spokes of their wheel to trip them up. His comments come after polls show the Democratic Party's favorability rating sitting at a record low. A recent NBC News poll referenced during the show shows only 27% of respondents having a positive view of the party. So he's right to some extent. He's right. We have to be introspective. We have to recognize that at times Democrats, liberals, leftists can be judgmental. They can be condescending. They can be snobbish. Obviously, as I have stressed before, this is never an excuse to support far-right policies, to support fascism, to support anti-democratic policies, to support policies which destroy the government, destroy the environment, and which put more money in the pockets of the uber-wealthy who certainly don't need it. But at the same time, Democrats need to moderate some of their tone, some of their rhetoric, not the policies. More moderate policies have been shown to not work. They're ineffective. They don't win over the base. The base will actually not show up to the polls if you run on too moderate policies. But if you run on a tone that is too scolding, too judgmental, too lectury, too not listening to people, so to speak, saying, well, no, the economy is actually great, when the economy isn't that great. Or, well, you have to be really educated to know how great I am. My platform, college educated people know how great I am. But if you don't have a college education, you tend to vote for the other side. Don't scold people. Don't judge people for lack of education or anything like that. No, reach out to people, listen to people, and do not be judgmental. And while this does exist on the Democratic side, Gavin Newsom has a point there, we also have to acknowledge it exists on the Republican side. And in fact, it's arguably more common on the Republican side. They just get away with it more often because they are held to a lower standard. Trump has lowered the bar so much for them. Remember in 2012 when Mitt Romney attacked 47% of Americans who pay no income tax, he said? The 47% who he claimed will just vote for more handouts from the government. He was caught doing this in private, actually, on some event. And this was a few months before the election. If that had happened with Trump, we'd have all forgotten about it by now. And yet it's remembered as the gaffe that ruined Mitt Romney's campaign, among a few other things, obviously. Without that gaffe, he still probably wouldn't have won. But Trump, he gets to say whatever he wants. He gets to be as judgmental as he wants. He gets to be as scolding as he wants, saying stuff like Jews who vote Democratic are bad Jews. So they have lots of judgmentalness on their side. The fact of the matter is that the American psyche, the American consciousness kind of just glosses over it. We just move past it. But when Democrats say stuff that's super condescending or arrogant or out of touch, think of Hillary Clinton saying basket of deplorables. It gets a bunch of traction. It gets a bunch of hits. People go out and say, I'm a deplorable. Oh yeah, Hillary Clinton, she's a snob. She's terrible. She hates half the country. She thinks they're deplorable, racist people. But Trump and the Republicans get to judge people all they want. They get to be super snobby, super obnoxious. Peter Thiel gets to go out there and attack Kamala Harris for not being Ivy League educated, as well as Joe Biden. And J.D. Vance is Ivy League educated, so he must be better than them in Peter Thiel's eyes. So I get where Gavin Newsom's coming from in this sense that it used to be conservatives who had the reputation more so for being judgmental. It did. If you go back to the 80s, 90s, 2000s, there was this whole moral majority thing. These people who were like, oh yeah, we're the best, we're the religious people, we're God's people, we're the righteous ones. You can't deviate from our type of lifestyle. White picket fence, heterosexual marriage, 4 to 6 kids. Yeah, you gotta live like me, upper middle class, suit and tie, be like me, worship God, all this stuff, transgender, lesbian, gay, bisexual, all this stuff is a bunch of nonsense. They say, oh, we just know how it's done. We're the traditional conservatives who think we run everything. You better dress super nicely, and women don't show your legs too much, and feminism is bad, and oh, rap music is bad. They had the reputation for snobbery up until pretty recently. And now with Trump, though, it's like suddenly the Republican Party is held to a much lower standard. They already were held to a kind of low standard under George W. Bush, but now the bar is on the floor for them. And so they get to say whatever they want, and people are just like, yeah, no, it's another day ending in Y. The Republican Party going off, Donald Trump going off against his opponents, against people he doesn't like, against people he deems, vermin. But the Democratic Party, we put them under the microscope so much. People on the right, people like Joe Rogan, big guy, will go after them and be like, oh yeah, they think they're better than you. Yeah, these elites. And so the Democrats get smeared as being judgmental elites, and the Republicans don't. The Republicans get to get away with it. And there's just a few progressive commentators online who will point out some of the insane, snobby, judgmental, toxic things that right-wing figures will say, but it's not really a thing in the mainstream. Mainstream media spends time actually kind of clutching their pearls over Trump's rudeness and his vicious tweets. That was something common in his presidency, is they seem to be more concerned about his tweets than his actual policies. We'll keep reading. In the interview Friday, Newsom pointed to Democrats leaning on cancel culture and other personal attacks as a possible reason for the dip. Okay, I haven't heard the term cancel culture be used in quite a while, actually. I thought that one was dying down, but I thought wokeness had replaced it. But yeah, I don't really see cancel culture as being that prominent of a thing in 2024. I'm sorry, I just don't. I think people are so numb to Trump supporters, to celebrities coming out and being like, yeah, Donald Trump is the best, man. He's so cool. He's tough. He sticks it to the left. People have gotten used to that, and they're numb to it. They don't make a big deal out of it. They don't cancel them. There's not that much power to quote-unquote cancel these days. So I just think Gavin Newsom is a little off base in this one, or at least he's a bit late on it. I think cancel culture as a thing has died down. Quote, Democrats, we tend to be a little more judgmental than we should be, he told Bill Maher. This notion of cancel culture, you've been living it. You've been on the receiving end of it for years and years and years. That's real. Democrats need to own up to that, he said. They've got to mature. Okay, here's a counterpoint. They might need to be less mature. They might need to be less mature because look at the most immature candidate, who also happens to be the oldest, by the way, the oldest president in history, just won an election, winning every swing state. So I don't know. Maybe they don't need to get more mature. Maybe people like Jasmine Crockett mocking John Fetterman for wearing hoodies and calling Governor Greg Abbott a hot ass mess. Maybe that's actually the way to go. Who knows? I mean, I'm sure she's not running for president, but maybe a little bit of spice is the way to go, and being less mature is actually where it's at. Because sometimes people are so mature that they end up actually being judgmental in the process. Sometimes maturity and judgmentalness go hand in hand, and sometimes immaturity and open-mindedness actually go hand in hand. Not being judgmental. You're like, yeah, whatever, I'm a child too, you're a child, whatever. Let's go on. Immaturity might help win over the youth vote, and we know Trump did pretty well with the young in 2024. Newsom, who has been floated as a possible 2028 contender, is not the only Democrat to criticize the party. John Fetterman and Bernie Sanders have also raised questions and given advice on how they should move forward. Bernie Sanders obviously a lot different from Newsom and Fetterman. Bernie talking about policy, Fetterman talking about, oh, they're bad, Democrats, MAGA is cool, Trump is a good guy, you can't root against Trump. Bernie Sanders is talking about economics, talking about stopping oligarchy, talking about how Democrats need to make their case better, and they need to get their heads out of the sand and say, look at what Trump is doing. And then Gavin Newsom's kind of like, yeah, let's just be less judgmental. Let's reach across the aisle. Let's bring on Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and Michael Savage. Like, dude, really? You're going to bring on those guys? That's arguably worse than Kamala Harris campaigning with Liz Cheney. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. It is. For people who don't like Liz Cheney, bringing on Charlie Kirk, Steve Bannon, and Michael Savage is worse. Those guys are more far right than her. Just because they're not part of the Cheney family, the neocon family, doesn't mean that they're not more far right, doesn't mean that they're more odious. Charlie Kirk has said that gays should be stoned to death. Steve Bannon has called Elon Musk racist, implying he's racist against white people because he wants to take H-1B visa immigrants. And then Michael Savage, I mean, that guy yelled at a caller and told him to get AIDS and die. And that guy said that Trump's win in 2016 saved white people from slavery, from being enslaved. So these guys are just insane. You know, Kamala Harris, criticize her all you want for campaigning with Liz Cheney, but that's at least something that you could see reaching out to disaffected Republicans. Same with her bringing, well, she didn't bring Adam Kinzinger, but Adam Kinzinger spoke at the RNC. He's a Republican. So they reached out. They did reach out. Gavin Newsom, your whole idea of reaching out is not a novel one, actually. You're reaching out to the wrong people, though. Nobody's going to go, oh, gee, I usually vote Republican because of Charlie Kirk, but now that Gavin Newsom had Charlie Kirk on, I guess I'll have to vote Democratic in 2028. We need to elect Gavin Newsom over J.D. Vance. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, or subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the More is the Merrier, and I look forward to speaking to you in my next video.